Everybody, welcome, councillors, officers and members of the public to the meeting. Can I remind you to please switch your mobile phones to silent? There are members of the public and press attending this meeting virtually. Can I please ask you to switch off your microphone to avoid any disruption during the meeting? The meeting is being recorded and will be available in due course on the council's YouTube channel. Can I remind councillors to ensure that those attending virtually can hear the proceedings, and for the recording to capture the entire meeting, please ensure that you speak loudly and clearly. Please remember that it is a formal meeting and therefore do not refer to councillors by their first name. When addressing council, please stand if you are able to do so. There is no fire alarm planned, therefore upon hearing the fire alarm, please leave the building via your nearest fire exit and assemble at the top of the car park. Please be aware that the contents displayed on your iPad or laptop may be seen by others or members of the public attending the meeting. Therefore, please close down any screens which display confidential information during the public part of the meeting. Thank you. Apologies for absence, please.
Yes, Chair, receives apologies from councillors Bell, Hunt, Davies, Wilson and Whitehead, Chair.
Chair, just thank the Rutter who's running late. He's stuck on this. It's roundabout. Didn't realise he owned one.
Item 2, to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of February 2026. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Leader and the second of Councillor Orange. Item 3. Oh, and we have a vote, sorry.
In favour.
Yeah. In favour, sorry. Again, anybody against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Item 3 is Chair's announcements. I'm really pleased to welcome Councillor Jane Mackey back as one of our members. I'm really looking forward to having you work with us and to working with you again, Jane. Nice to see you.
Yeah.
This my second announcement is rather a sad one. As many of you will be aware, the ex-councillor Chris Hayward passed away recently, and I just wondered if I think it would be appropriate to hold a minute's silence. Can I please remind everybody that they need to do that, who is not up to date with their buckfish training, can you please do it? I know some people are saying, oh, well, it's getting repetitive now, but that means it's working because you're remembering that you've done this before and you're remembering what you're doing. And which is the whole point of it, is to get you into good habits of dealing with IT. So thank you very much. Item 4, business brought forward by or with consent of the chair. I have none. Item 5, replies to any questions submitted by the public and or to receive petitions under Part 4 Council Procedure Rules, paragraphs 8 and 9 of the Constitution. There is none. Item 6 is to consider motions of which notice has been submitted by members in accordance with Part 4 Council Procedures Policies, paragraph 11 of the Constitution. And there is a notice of motion from Councillor Maskell.
At the outbreak of World War II, Britain had around 6 weeks of food supply for the nation. Today, we would have what was on supermarket shelves, a few days at most. We have no food security. Only 30% of the food that we eat is grown in this country. And despite our rich and fertile farmland, farmers' incomes are down 30 to 40%. And we are currently seeing the nation's farmland being covered in solar panels. I would recommend reading a chap called James Rebank, who is a farmer from Cumbria, and he talked about farmers being stuck in a broken and flawed system. He has some excellent ideas on how to build a healthy and sustainable system. My motion is not against green energy. It is about looking at food security and energy security with equal importance. I was delighted to hear that North Devon Hospice has covered its car parks in solar panels recently, working with a local company called Eden Sustainable. I've spoken to them and they are more than happy to talk to the council about utilising urban space for solar energy. We have a real opportunity to lead the way here in North Devon. I'd therefore like to propose that we refer motion items 1 and 2 to the Joint Planning Policy Committee and refer motion items 3 and 4 to Strategy and Resources. Thank you.
I'll take a seconder for that, please. Councillor Crowd. We've had a proposer and second, but what did you want?
I don't know if Councillor Maskell heard the last policy scrutiny and policy meeting, but in that we were discussing with planning, trying to make it easier for solar panels to go on roofs and to overcome the barriers therein. So it's great that we're all thinking on the same side of the direction with the council.
Yeah, I'm just speaking on support of Councillor Maskell's motion. Obviously, we all fully support solar energy, but as she says, agricultural land is finite. And every inch is needed, to produce our food. In these times of international unrest, we need to increase sustainable home produced food, not produce it. And obviously, provision of renewable energy is important. But you have to bear in mind that there's currently no such thing as an electric tractor. So our farmers have to rely on fossil fuel red diesel. I don't know whether the room is aware, but since the closure of the Gulf of Hormuz, red diesel has doubled in price. Currently a local contractor here, biggest contractor we've got in North Devon, their need for the larger machines for cultivation for farmers, they're charging £70 an hour. So in a standard 10-hour day, that's £700 for the farmer for just one day's work. To cultivate the ground and basically grow our food. 60% of fertilizer now comes through the Gulf of Hormuz. So you can appreciate the problem there again. Farmers are on their knees now and they need all the help and support we can give them. North Devon is predominantly a livestock farming area. Their increasing reliance is on organic fertilizer the animals produce themselves. This should be encouraged in every acre of land as in North Devon. Tourism and farming, as we all know, go hand in hand together. And we need to support our farmers producing the food off the land and not in large solar farms. I mean, tourists come here not to see field after field of solar panels. They come to see field after field of sheep and cattle, don't they? And I think we've got to work together to put solar panels in the right place, but not on our productive farmland. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, you might have expected me to speak on this one. I mean, this seems like an eminently sensible approach, quite honestly, with the challenges of the land use framework that have come out recently. And there's some quite interesting complexities and nuances within that. There's also the future farming roadmap, which is due out fairly soon from government, which will put that interpretation as to how we should be using our land, or at least that productive land. It seems to me there's a reality here that there are potentially multiple uses for land. However, our food security is challenged. There are as far as I'm aware, a relatively limited number of uses for roofs on buildings. Generally, it's to keep the rain out. But they can do that with solar panels or even a solar roof. So it seems strange to me that we haven't yet reached the stage within planning that we are able to suggest that solar roofs are put onto buildings, particularly in my mind, commercial buildings. Because after all, most commercial buildings are those that use power during the hours of daylight. That's when they generally work, most of them, not all, but most. So absolutely support this, and I feel it would be an appropriate for us as a council to support this approach and ensure that we support our rural economy as well as our net zero ambition. Just one last comment. You cited James Rebanks, absolutely brilliant person. I know him very well. However, I would suggest if you want to hear a little more about the value of net zero and of our energy supply, read some of the work and some of the publications by Professor Dieter Helm, who chaired the Natural Capital Committee for government for a very long time. Currently, well-respected professor of and is very, very good at showing where the value of these sort of approaches can be used.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I applaud the fact that you're suggesting we refer points 1 and 2 to the APPC and points 3 and 4 to the statutory sources. That's quite appropriate. I was a bit disappointed by the emphasis on this proposal from Councillor Haskell. It's very similar to the question that was posed to me at full council last year, which I answered from the front, and you would have heard it, whether or not they agreed with it or not. I would like to make a basic point here. Yes, farming is absolutely crucial ingredient to our well-being, and I've never argued with that. But when we're talking about food security, I maintain that the real threat to our food security is not coming from solar farms, and it's not coming from housing, which takes up a lot of agricultural land, prime land, and it's not coming from golf courses. I've referred to this before, which takes up even more space of prime agricultural land than solar farms. It comes from the climate crisis. Last Saturday, there was a showing of the People's climate briefing. The PEB is the ecological.
National emergency.
Thank you. The National Emergency Briefing, which this was called the People's Emergency Briefing. I think every councillor in this room would have been aware of that being shown, not just in Barnstaple Library, but in several centres throughout North Devonshire, ongoing. It's a crucially important reminder to all of us where the real and present danger is. And I urge as many of you as possible who haven't seen it, many of you have, I'm sure, to see it, because it is quite enlightening as to where our priority should be, net zero being one of them. The fact is we are wholly reliant upon fossil fuels, and they are what is driving us to climate tipping points. I won't say any more than that, because that is my brief and it's my passion, as people know, and I certainly am not trying to negate the fact that we need farmers to produce the food from which we all benefit.
Thanks, Chair. There's certainly nothing that I heard tonight that I disagree with. I don't think it should be seen as one or the other. I think we're living through, as Mickey Knight has quite eloquently put, a climate emergency. And we're also looking at a food emergency in the next few years, I'm sure. And we've got to remedy both of them the best way we can. I think Rex has got a lot to answer for, to be perfectly honest. Giving up trade with our nearest neighbour in such large quantities was a suicide of the highest order for a country. But I just want to clarify, having said that, what we're doing tonight is Councillor Maskell proposing that we refer the first two. So we're not having an actual vote on the motion, we're having a vote to take to the committee.
Yes.
Well, that's fine,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, councillor.
So if I can take the vote, please, all those in favour? Anyone against? Any abstention? Thank you, it's carried. Item 7 is declarations of interest.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So in respect of item 15, Dorsetshire Town and Parish Councillors whose town and parish councils are affected by the Community Governance Review have an other registrable interest in that item, but have been granted a dispensation by Governance Committee and so may take part in deliberation and vote of that item. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Item 8, Chair's replies to any questions to council by members submitted under Part 4, Council Procedure Rules, paragraph 10 of the Constitution. To consider the following question from Councillor Walker to the leader of the council. The question is, there is an historic issue with land that should have been transferred to North Devon Council as part of housing developments not being completed correctly. This includes parcels of land in Roundswell. Please could the leader assure us that everything is being done to try and rectify this situation?
I'd say thank you to Councillor Walker for notice of this question. A very important one that I know does affect your ward and surrounding wards as well. I can assure you that everything is being done. This has been going on for a few years, this now, I know. But I can assure you that everything is being done and the council is liaising with the appropriate authorities. I think one way forward, because I do know that ward councillors, yourself and Council B, are in possession of the latest development. I think one way forward perhaps might be a meeting with the legal officer and the chief executive and ward councillors and myself in the very near future, just to update and take any questions directly to see if we can make further progress. If that would be okay.
Thank you. That would be useful. That would be myself, Councillor Cannon, Councillor Tops and Councillor Biederman.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Item 9, to agree the agenda between Part A and Part B, which is confidential restricted information. There is no Part B. So moving on to item 10. Really pleased to be doing. We have a lovely lady called Anne here from the RNLI. I had a little chairs quiz about a month ago. We managed to raise £860 for the Ilfracombe RNLI on the night. So thank you to everybody who came, and really big thank you to all the businesses in Barnstaple who donated raffle prizes, and to Fremington Key for putting on such a fantastic evening. I'm like to pass over to Anne, who perhaps would like to tell us a little bit what this would mean for Ilfracombe RNLI.
Yes,
So putting you on the spot.
yes. Well, as you know, we don't get any central government funding at all. We're totally reliant on individuals, organisations such as yourselves organising events for us, and legacies. That's our main, and we get a little bit of money from a few big chunks of money actually from foundations and endowments, but we have to go and find nearly all our money. So the fundraising team is extremely busy. We are one of the busiest stations in the southwest. We were in the top 20% last year. We had 80 shouts, or more than 80 shouts. Start of this year's been quite quiet, but we haven't hit the holiday season yet. So it's going to be, I expect, another busy year. And I don't know if you're aware, but the way we work has changed a lot as well in the last few years. I mean, most of the shouts that we're involved with now are people that have started on land and never even wanted to get into the water or that far out from the water in the first place. Whereas 20, 30 years ago, it was very much helping vessels at sea. We still do some of that. But our remit has changed. And I expect you're aware that we're having a change of boat as well in the summer, which will be a challenge. But I think given the types of rescues we're doing now, it's actually a more appropriate vessel, and certainly the crew are very excited when we start training in the summer. But thank you so much for doing this for us. We're incredibly grateful, and thank you for helping us to continue saving lives at sea. And just one last thing I would offer is that we have a fantastic visits team. So if you would like to organise sort of a formal visit at any time, we do this for all kinds of organisations, and we'd be delighted to do it for the council or for any other related organisation that might be interested. Please just get in touch with me.
Thank you very much. We've done one outside, but yeah, so this is not a giant check, so.
Our legal tender giant.
Why are you taking a picture? Can you just clarify who won the actual?
They donate their winning.
The quiz did not have a cash prize, so no, they did not donate their winnings. They got some individually made little trophies that I had great fun making. And yes, the quiz was won by a team led by the chair of Devon County Council and the leader of and deputy leader of North Devon Council.
Do you want a photograph?
Yeah, we just do a photograph. Yeah, okay.
Get shiny.
When they
Okay, so thank you very much. I must say it was an absolute pleasure to run that night. I had great fun that day. So I hope everybody else did. Yeah, so item 11 is the report by the leader of the council.
I'll take it as read, Chair, please, but just to offer my congratulations to Councillor Jane Mackey and welcome to the council. I say Jane Mackey when I, a long time ago since we were knocking on doors. But the door I knocked on, I said, I introduced myself, said, I'm here on behalf of Jane Mackay. She said, no, you're not. My children, she's called Mackey. I said, all right, okay, I stand corrected. So, learn the knowledge. So, welcome. And that will take a question.
Anybody have any questions? Councillor Maddox.
Yeah, it's not really a question. It's just with where you talked about the CLTs, and Georgian one is nearly over the line now. So I just thought I'd take this opportunity to say how supportive Ian Room has been through the procedure. There's been a few things going on, but you know, he's been a real help with his right-hand man, Councillor Biederman, as well. So yeah, just really it's a thank you to Ian Room for the great job that he's done helping the Georgian CLT and support he's given right from the off.
Yeah, I'll reiterate that and thank you. And I'll pass those comments on to Ian. I think it's also worth pointing out that I found the whole issue of CLTs to be quite slow and drawn out. And frustrating, to be honest, and it's compulsive because I've been going to the meetings,
Yeah,
and you feel as though you're going around. But massive thanks to Jamie Jays because she's been pushing and pushing and pushing, and it must be frustrating for the officers as well because there's so many hoops to jump through. So we are getting there, and I said, look, let's stress this.
and that's round from the planning.
There's problems with there's issues around Braunton. I know that, but again, we're pushing as hard as we can. And, hopefully there'll be more success there in the future.
Without going into detail, Ian's probably saved us 12 months.
Yeah.
of extra work and a lot more money
And in
on
particular,
with his help. Yeah.
And it was good to see the sort of praise as well from the developers for the office.
Yeah.
Really try.
That report's just come out, thank you. Item 12, questions by members. Questions, sorry. Oh, sorry, councillor Crabbe, you wanted to say? I think write your name down. Paul.
It's fairly inconsequential, but something I picked up there that irritated me, and I'm sure it irritated David. You remember anyone that was anywhere near county 12 months ago was massively irritated by the fact that you can't take a sofa anywhere except a special skip in a special plate in a special tip, which it then gets taken to and burnt in exactly the same plate as everywhere else. And you get the same thing now with having to pay a fortune to gather this stuff up, weigh it, measure it, say what colour it is, tick a box, and then burn it. It's, you know, somebody in government needs to be made aware of this, don't they? But I mean, it's not, we're not going to deal with it now, but it's nonsense, isn't it?
No, I absolutely agree. And I was hoping for something much better. I thought all this had been done, I thought the planning had been done. I watched a documentary not too long ago. I was quite surprised, and I was asking Mark Cantel, and he said similar things to yourself. It's frustrating. It will be for officers, and because it will be frustrating for the public who generally want to recycle. I think the answer
Recycling if they find out.
The answer to all of us is boycott plastic, soft plastics that the stores continuously put on. I think that is the one way forward to try and put pressure on your big stores to just have less plastic, soft plastic, because there's no need for it. That's it. It's like turning the juggernaut, isn't it? It's very, very difficult. But yeah, it's going to be a frustrating time because we have to do this by law next April 2027.
Councillor Mansfield.
Sorry, just on that point, did we ever find out what the supermarkets do? Because they've been collecting soft plastic for quite a while. And I've asked a few times and nobody seems to know.
No, I have actually asked at the last recycling group to see if we could find out. I'd be right to Mark fear. What Mark Cantel said is that a lot of it ends up being which, you know, you feel so good going to Tesco and putting all your soft plastics in there, and then you find that you might as well just put them in the black bin. Although I cannot say the
Councillor Clayton says.
But we shall wait to see if we get the price. I can't say for certain. Hopefully we'll be doing something.
Okay, thank you very much. That report is to note. Item 13, local authority housing fund, round 4. I'm handing over to Roman in place of Nina. Sorry, item 12. Item 12, questions by members. Questions to the leader or the chair of committee submitted under Part 4 Council Procedure Rules, paragraph 1014 of the Constitution. I believe we have a question.
Chair, I can't find the wording. I wonder if Bev, you might have it there. Could you read it out for me?
Chair, if you need to.
To read it out, Chair. So, the question from Councillor Knight was, Councillor Peter Lever and myself recently attended a relatively intense but seriously rewarding 2-day online course set up by the Local Government Association to inform participants as to how councils can best undertake impactful and meaningful climate action. This carbon literacy project has thus far certified over 150,000 individuals worldwide, and over 160 councils nationally have engaged with this project. Does the leader agree that North Devon Council should consider using our own in-house experts to run a similar course for councillors this year?
Yeah, and thank you to Councillor Ricky Knight for noticing this question. Absolutely, yes. I'm glad to see that you and Councillor Peter Lever have made up and are going to meetings together now. What an important meeting to go to as well. And it's such an important issue, climate emergency. So the training, I believe that there's I think 24 members of the North Devon Council officer team been on training over the last year or so, and the SLT have just been offered free training on this. very important issue. And yes, Donna, our sustainability officer, is a trained officer, and hopefully, I mean, the key here is the cascading system. And everybody should be trained, councillors, officers, on the importance of this, and look at things, incremental steps that we can all do. And it can be done in-house, and I hope that we can push this forward as much as possible. And I know you two are good, big friends, I'm really talking. Yeah. But yes, very, very important issue, and hopefully we can progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 13, local authority housing fund, round 4. Pass to John Rhodes.
And this local authority housing fund round 4, the authority took up round 1 funding. Members may recall we received just over £1 million and used that to match fund against properties we were acquiring for temporary accommodation and resettlement purposes. That enabled us to purchase 9 properties, and all those properties are now being utilised. The benefit of that is by buying our own properties and using these properties for temporary accommodation reduces our need to go out and spend revenue money on expensive bed and breakfast accommodation. It's also much better for the well-being of our clients, and also enables us to have a property that will grow in capital appreciation for this council and any future council. The round 1 funding was used to match fund acquisition of property. We declined to take part in round 2 because the design of the scheme changed as it was coming forward and didn't meet the needs of the authority moving forward. So we declined the funding for round 2, but we were beneficiaries of round 3 funding in the last 6 months, and we received 660,000. Again, that enabled us to buy 4 properties. 2 properties have been purchased for temporary accommodation, and another 2 homes are currently going through conveyancing, and they will be used for the Afghan resettlement scheme. One of those will be a larger property as well. Round 4 funding that's now come forwards, we've been allocated £540,000. And the proposal in front of you this evening is to approve that £540,000 funding to be received and go into the capital programme, to be used alongside match funding that we've already approved, that you've approved for your full council previously, for up to £4 million for temporary accommodation acquisitions. So we would propose using that £540,000 external grant to match fund by 4 properties. We would use our own match funding from temporary accommodation capital funding, and that would enable then 4 more properties to come forwards, 2 for temporary accommodation and 2 for the Afghan resettlement element. Again, that would give us 4 properties that will grow in capital appreciation and enable us to reduce our reliance on expensive bed and breakfast accommodation. So, Chair, the recommendations in front of you in section 2.1 are to note the successful acceptance of the expression of interest, approve the council entering into a memorandum of understanding with central government to secure round 4 funding, delegate authority to Director of Resources and Deputy Chief Executive and the Senior Solicitor and Monitoring Officer in consultation with the Head of Environmental Health and Housing to finalise and sign the memorandum of understanding and agree any minor amendments required by central government. To recommend that this council vary the capital programme by 540,000 and that funds be released subject to the signing of that memorandum of understanding, and note that delivery be managed through existing governance arrangements with progress reporting through established programme and capital monitoring processes. Happy to take any questions, Jeff.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Councillor Crabb.
Yeah, I asked this because no doubt it'll be asked in various forums. The resettlement scheme that you refer to for 2 of the houses, that will be the Afghan resettlement scheme still, will it?
Correct, yeah.
Now, in the early days, when we probably tranche 1, the argument behind this is that when the resettlement scheme was no longer needed, then the properties would cascade back to the council. What's the rules on this one? Because I take it rule number 2 wasn't that, you had to keep them in that.
Yeah, so if the demand isn't there for the resettlement schemes, then we have freedom to use them for general needs temporary accommodation. So if the demand isn't there for the resettlement schemes or that changes in the future, we can flip them back to our own use for temporary accommodation. Obviously, if our temporary accommodation reduction happened as well and we didn't need the temporary accommodation, we have the ability then, because our properties, they're not ring fenced then for anything in the future. So we have that ability to be able to do that.
There we are. I think we all saw BBC Live 3, didn't we? But there we are.
Councillor Beeman.
Yes, thank you. I mean, obviously, fully support this. Fantastic. And thanks to all officers that have put these kids to plans. Clearly, like you say, I remember the days when we were housing people above in temporary accommodation, above pubs and such. completely inappropriate. So I think it's fantastic and good value for the public purse. Can you just run those numbers by me? So, right from the start, but I couldn't keep up. I think I got to 13 properties we bought from the company, but I could be wrong. And then how many of those were going to be settled? And I assume, comparing that this government mandating us that we have to take our fair share of food settlement with your support, I assume.
Yeah,
So what's the actual number split on?
in terms of numbers, so yeah, we're required to obviously partake in the silent dispersal model and obviously under the resettlement programme. In terms of the ones we bought so far, so round one was 9 properties. Those 9, they're being used for temporary accommodation purposes. So solely for temporary accommodation purposes. The third round we bought 4 properties, so 2 of those will be resettled. And then 2 of these new properties under round 4 will then be used for the resettlement purpose as well. So that'll be a total of 4 properties. So 17.
70. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I have a proposal for that, please? Councillor Beaverman, seconder, Councillor Rutty, all those in favour? Against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Thank you. Item 14 is the lead members' report brought by the lead member for local community. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously the report's in front of you. It's pretty expensive, but there's a lot on it about Ilfracombe, and I think the 3 straplines are important. There's one, the importance of culture as a regeneration tool in Ilfracombe. It's a massive thing that's happening at the moment, and a lot of steps forward are being made with that. Another important item, I think, is the continued push, particularly from the LGA, for there to be a dedicated minister at Westminster for coastal communities. Something's happening, and we are fighting very hard for that. And the third thing is, picking up the point that was made earlier on by Councillor Maddox, the importance of CLTs, particularly in the coastal communities, where housing is getting to the point of being impossible for they on lower incomes, particularly people that work in the hospitality trade. And CLTs are providing this opportunity for people to be able to remain living in the area in which they were born and are working in the areas. Great to hear the progress being made at Croyd, and as we speak, they are currently building 21 affordable units in Woolacombe purely for rent. They will be in perpetuity for rent only. So the report is in front of you. If there are any further questions, I'm happy to answer, or at least come back with an answer.
Sorry, I really don't want to make this any longer. I commend Malcolm for his report. It was very good indeed. One particular thing which I've read in it and reminded me that I am irritated, you'd be surprised. Tom Brennan, was it, that came to SNR and told us about the RNI?
Yeah.
Nonsense. His view was that the jet-powered boat could more or less skim along the seabed. Speak to it's nonsense, rubbish. The boats with propellers are actually more able to go lower in the water than jet boats. And this whole thing about the draft and this, and it's going to be, it's nonsense. So is there a method this captain, I mean, he came along, he gave us a lovely presentation, it was all bright colours, and we sort of, yeah, that's okay, then 6%. Is there a way of going back and challenging that from this council? I'll happily speak to anyone and give my evidence, not now, all the time, but I'll happily give my evidence, and then if there's a way that the council could pass that on, or at least question, I think it's Mr. Brennan, is it Tom Brennan, was it? Or was that a character from a book?
There's 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, Gerard, obviously he came and gave the presentation at the request I was making, and thank you for that. I don't profess to be an expert on the benefits or otherwise of jet or propellers.
No.
But he reassured us that the jet had the ability to go over the sandbar at Appledore in inclement weathers, and it had the manoeuvrability to get out of trouble as well if it was in there. I could only believe what I was told.
Yeah, absolutely. As did we all. As did we all.
Yeah. But there we go. Happy to have another look at it.
If I send your stuff to you, then you just.
Please do. Thank you.
That's just, thank you very much for really.
Yeah, a big thank you to Councillor Malcolm Wilkinson for all the work you're doing and for the report.
Yes, no, it's a really, really thorough report. Thank you. Could I just ask councillors not to talk when other people are talking, please? Thank you. Item 15, so that's to note. Thank you. Item 15, community governance review and final recommendations. And over to Councillor Morgan, please.
Delegated. My better side. Okay, yeah, thank you.
They wouldn't see on the screen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The community governance review has been going on now, started, I think, about first came to governance back in June last year, I think, about 10 months now. So this is a brief overview because we're running out of time, I think, really, but it's a legal process to provide opportunity for residents and councils to propose changes within their area. So the community governance approved the final recommendations, which are detailed in here at the 10th of March meeting. Just pick up some key bits, really, I think, really. So it's been to governance a number of times. Alongside this, there was a small working group who were perhaps giving advice or guidance to the officers. It involved myself, the deputy leader, and Malcolm Press. We met a couple of times. The final recommendations, opinion of the officers accord with the terms of reference that were set by the officers at the start of the process. The final recommendations set out in Appendix A of the report of the result of the comprehensive review. She mentioned that there were a number of other options that were raised by towns and parishes, and it didn't get through the test, mainly through the residents who weren't supportive of them. One town may want to raise issue tonight. And the tests, the main tests really were, I think, mentioned on Appendix A, that to meet compliance, there's 3 legal tests. Do recommendations reflect the identities and interests of the areas under review? Do recommendations provide support effective, convenient local government? And 3, account for taking on other arrangements for representation and engagement. I'm not planning to go through the detail of those. I'm assuming it's been read. But I'll go on to the recommendations and answer questions, really. So in 2.1, the committee approved the making of North Devon District Reorganisation of Community Government Order 2026, as laid out in Appendix C. If agreed, the changes will kick in on the 1st of April 2027, in line with the County Council elections, and to give delegated powers to our senior solicitor and monitoring officer when necessary. Non-material amendments, the reorganisation order, should any be required, to allow it to be brought into effect. I'd like to thank the officers. There's a lot of correspondence, a lot of maps, a lot of discussions, and the governance committee. Thank you. So, any questions? No. So, can I move?
We have a proposal from Councillor Norman. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second.
Councillor Rothie, do you have a question?
I was going to make a statement, if that was all right, Chair. I just wanted to just say my personal thanks to Councillor Norman for being chair during this time. His guidance on the governance committee has been invaluable. I just want to assure all councillors that we have gone through this with a fine-tooth comb. So, you can vote in assurance that, everything was done as well as it could have been.
All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Item 16 is the scheme of landed allowances 2026-2027. 2026-2027, 29 first.
Thank you, Chair. The members, the team members' allowances for 2027 to 29/30 set out in item 16. Each year, all local authorities are required to set a scheme of allowances. In accordance with the regulations, the independent remuneration panel that consists of independent people, they've met and made recommendations which are contained within this report. The regulations states that it's subject to a fundamental review every 4 years, particularly with regard to the indexing arrangements for the uplift to basic allowances, which all members are entitled to receive. The panel has now undertaken the fundamental review for the years 26, 27 to 29, 30, and a copy of the panel's report is shown in your papers in Appendix A, pages 75 to 84. The panel did take particular review, the particular review has taken place in the context of the imminent local government reorganisation, which at the moment is planned to come in from 2028. And you'll note that this review for the scheme of lending allowances takes you up to 2930. So it has been undertaken with that in mind. But the panel has offered recommendations for a scheme for 4 years, which takes us past that date, should there be any potential delay to the reorganisation affect the authority moving forwards in case of any slippage. As part of the evidence base of the review, the panel wanted to hear from councillors, and they undertook a survey from all of you. They also undertook interviews with the leader of the council, the deputy leader, group leaders, lead member for climate and diversity and housing, chair of the planning committee and chair of council. The panel also considered comparative statistics with other councils who operate a similar governance arrangement and a committee style, and also adjoining district councils. They also noted the peer review report and its recent recommendations. So the local authorities regulations require council to take into account the advice of the panel, and included in your report in paragraphs 4.11 to 4.40 is a summary of the panel's recommendations. That's the basic allowance, the spatial responsibility allowance, and these are set out in your report in front of you. Basic allowance currently for 25-26 is £5,852. The previous review in 2022 concluded that the basic allowance had fallen significantly behind that of equivalent councils, and at the last review adopted the principle of an annual increase in a set amount of £250 each year, or by the equivalent uplift in the staff pay award, whichever was the highest, and that's been applied to the members' allowances since that date. The resulting increases have seen the allowance compare slightly more favourably now with comparative councillors. There's no appetite among members for the basic allowance to be increased, other than in accordance with the allowance that's awarded to staff in the annual pay uplift. In relation to the chair of the council, the panel received a request to look at the role of the chair and determine whether it was appropriate for this role to be included in the scheme of allowance, because it currently didn't attract a chair's allowance. Findings of the panel are detailed in paragraphs 4.29 to 4.34. Chair of the council doesn't currently receive a special responsibility allowance, but the panel felt that the role merits an allowance equivalent to that of the other chairs that are in the scheme. So that is set out in the recommendations in your report. The panel concluded that the remainder of the scheme is working well and meets the needs of the council, and it's recommended that the basic allowance be increased in accordance with the award that's made to staff annually. As I've set out, the only substantive change proposed related to the introduction of a new special responsibility allowance for the chair of the council. And also you will see in Appendix B that sets out the allowances on pages 87 to 94. There is also an increase in the lead member allowance in terms of the number of lead member allowances, as you'll discuss that later in your agenda under the annual council item. So Chair, the recommendations on 2.1 and 2.2 on pages 65 to 66 to adopt the recommendations of the panel. Happy to take any questions from members.
Okay, is there any questions, members? Can I have a proposal for Ricky Knight, second, that's a Caroline Lever. All those in favour? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions?
Some abstain.
Yeah. That's great, thank you. Item 17 is the statutory pay policy 2026.
Thanks, sounding session. Members, the council statutory pay policy under the Localism Act 2011 must be agreed annually by full council. So this is coming to you again for consideration. The report is set out in your agenda papers. I must just point out that when you first go onto the item in your agenda, pages 95 and 96 shows a blank template of a report. So the report isn't actually missing, it's actually under the first appendix. So if you go to the first appendix on page 97, you will see the report on there. So I do apologise for that. That's the my technical ability of putting the report in the wrong place. So apologies for the check. So the report is set out in front of you. The remuneration arrangements are contained within the existing revenue budget that you approved at your February full council meetings. And as I said, it is a statutory requirement for full council to agree the statutory pay policy. Policy itself is set out in Appendix B on pages 99 to 103. And it just sets out the scope of the policy and the pay policy responsibilities and statement for chief officers for 2026. That covers the posts of the head of paid service, the chief executive, post of director of resources and deputy chief executive, heads of service, including those with responsibilities for the monitoring officer role as well, are included within this report. A previous national report produced, the Hutton report, outlined the most appropriate metric for looking at pay dispersion is the multiple of the chief executive to the median earnings for the authority. So that's a measure in terms of the multiple of your lowest paid employees and your average median employees to the pay of the chief executive in terms of keeping control over those levels. Tracking that multiple will ensure that public service organisations are accountable for the relationship between the pay of their executives and the wider workforce. And those details are set out on page 103 for those remuneration levels. What it sets out is the level and elements of remuneration for each chief officer. It sets out the remuneration of the lowest paid employees. It sets out the relationship between the remuneration of its chief officers and other officers and other aspects of chief officer remuneration. The policy itself is set out on pages 100 and 101. I will take that as read. And in terms of page 103, that just sets out the metrics in terms of the level of remuneration. And under section 3 at the bottom, it just sets out those multipliers of the remuneration of the chief officers to other officers in the council. You can therefore see there the pay multiple of the head of paid service to its lowest paid employee is 5.21 times the lowest paid employee. Just for comparison, when we carried out the 2025 review, when Governance Committee considered the pay of chief officers, that 5.21 is actually on the lower level of its comparators with other labelling authorities. They range between 5 and 6. So 5.21 is still on the lower level. The Chair, that sets out your statutory pay policy for consideration. Happy to take any questions, and the recommendation is 2.1 on page 97 of your report. Thank you, Chair.
Do we have any questions? Can I have a proposal? Councillor Norman, seconded by Councillor Rutty. All those in favour? Against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Item 18 is the annual effectiveness reports. The reports by the Chair of Strategy and Resources Committee, Councillor Clayton.
I think it is read. Chair, has any questions? Happy to answer.
Do you have any questions on that? And is this to vote on or to note?
These are to note, Chair.
Yeah, so this item is to note. Item B is the report by the Chair of Scrutiny Policy and Development Committee, Councillor Biederman.
So I take it as read, Chair.
Do you have any questions on that one? Thank you. Item C, the report by the Chair of Governance, Councillor Norman.
Take it as read, Chair.
Can I just say thank you very much for the reports. I have read them thoroughly and they were very enlightening. Thank you very much. Item 19, outside body reports.
So members, item 19 are all the individual reports from appointees to outside bodies. There's a number of reports in there, which obviously we'll take as read. Members are entitled to ask any questions from any of those reports to councillors of those appointed bodies. So if there are any questions, happy to answer any for those councillors on behalf of the reports for those intended.
Thank you very much for everybody who put the report in for their outside bodies. We have a very varied group of outside bodies that have representation from the council, which I think is an effective way of knowing what's going on in our district. So thank you for that. Any questions on that?
I will make a comment, Chair, if you don't mind. I was lucky enough to be appointed to the North Devon Against Domestic Abuse a few 3 years ago, and I sort of breached that term and said that I'm your appointed sort of councillor, if you like, and you know, please get in touch if you ever need anything. And I've never heard from them. I follow them quite closely and see what they do, and I've never wanted to interfere either, just because of that nature of that work. So, but it sort of ended up having competent with 2 or 3 other people that have held the role, and I think they're found similar. So I just wonder whether it's something that we should appoint to or not. But at the same time, I just feel guilty if not, doesn't seem to be any work involved. But at the same time, given the nature, I don't feel it's appropriate to really be pushing or interfering. But I leave that there. Comment really.
Yeah, I was going to say we can follow that up.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so thank you very much. That's just a note. Item 20 is the minutes of committees. I would like to take these on block if everybody's happy with that. So could I have a proposer to accept the minutes? Sorry, Councillor Petrino, so I saw your hand first. Seconder, Councillor Jones. All those in favour? Any again? Any abstentions? Thank you. And that concludes meeting. The full council meeting. We have annual council now. If anybody would like to